Thanks again for showing up and being part of this conversation. I want to introduce Greg and Nico. They are two of the artists who have become finalists within the request for qualifications that we were looking for. They have a ton of experience, and we're really happy that they want to get involved and share some of their work with us for this initial phase of the project. Um, they had a few questions about the community, about who Troy is, so that they have more of an idea of what to create for us, or at least have some kind of subject matter that incorporates any information that they don't have already. They have quite a bit of information. I sent quite a bit last week, but um, I think we can probably answer some of them questions pretty thoroughly. So, Greg and Nico, do you want to give us um, a quick little introduction of yourselves, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, my name's Greg Gossel. I'm a artist, muralist, printmaker, sculptor, and just outside of Minneapolis, over the border in Wisconsin. Been doing it for almost 20 years now, all over the country and abroad. And yeah, I'm really appreciate your time, and I'm kind of here to listen to any thoughts and um, ideas and you know, just kind of absorb what you have to say. So um, yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
My name's Nico Cathcart. I was born in Toronto, just over the border, but I went to high school in Portland, New York. Homer, really, but little people know where Homer is. It's so small. So I have Central New York roots. I live in Richmond, Virginia right now, and I am a professional muralist and painter. I show around the world and I paint around the world. I specialize in kind of realism. I work with bucket paint, and one of my specialties is really kind of doing work that reflects and has root in the community in which I'm working.
Mhm.
So, what I would love to hear from you guys is like, I'm kind of looking for like a little bit of a purchase on the community. You know what I mean? Like, what you guys feel ownership of and what you're proud of, so I can kind of take all that information and filter it into design that really reflects strongly the positive points of Troy. So I thank you for your time because this kind of interaction is really at the crux of everything that I do. So thank you guys.
Did you say your name again?
Oh, my name is Nico Cathcart.
Okay, Niko.
Nico, kind of like I was named
I see.
after the girl from the Velvet Underground.
I wonder. That's so cool.
I, I'm on phone only, so I can't see anything. I just wanted to get your name at least down so I can, you know, do a Google search and figure out who you are.
That's fair.
Something discreet like that. I mean, do you have any works in this area
Oh
now?
yeah, I just finished a really big one in Cortland actually. It was nominated for one of the best murals in the world, painted in May of this year by a European art blog. But it's kind of a gateway mural into Main Street. It's on like one North Main Street in Cortland, which is a little bit of a drive, but it's not too terrible. But you
So,
can find it on my
what's
website and Google me.
what's your last name again?
Cathcart,
Cathcart.
Cathcart.
Hmm.
And may I ask who's speaking on the phone?
That's Brian
Yeah,
McCandless.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
sorry.
Brian. It's
Yeah,
Belinda.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm
Mystery voice.
I'm in North Central, and I don't know. I don't have any connections here.
No worries. There's also another artist on the call or on the Zoom, Greg. Gossel, and so just so you know, there's more than one. It's so his last name is spelled Gossel.
Cecilia.
Great.
So I think the
Oh
best way
my
to
gosh.
start this, artist, is if you have any specific questions that you want to ask, and then we can go from there and sort of, fill in any blocks that you need that are missing.
I guess the best question to ask is like everybody kind of when you're thinking about this project probably has something in their brain of like what they want to see. And I just not saying I'm going to take all of those ideas and do it literally, but I would love to like hear that perspective from people who live there, what you want, or if you don't know what visually you want, what feeling you want to achieve with that space.
Anybody can start.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Hi, Barb.
Hi, my name's Barb Nelson, an architect and wannabe mural painter, uh, but I stick to alleys and quiet little places. Um,
Uh,
so here's something I think you would hear from most Trojans is that we are steeped in history and we love our industrial, gritty um, history, legacy, and how our architecture is, as we see more and more of it preserved, is beginning to shine again through the grit of factory smoke and such. I will also tell you, I am tired of murals that are about our buildings. So many people will put up a mural that depicts historic buildings. We have historic buildings. We need to enliven, and this is coming from a preservation architect. We need to enliven, dress up our wonderful historic buildings with contemporary art that brings us into the future. Not, yes, we love our past. Yes, we love that there were breweries. Yes, we love that there were industries here. But frankly, I've had enough of it. Not enough of it. I mean, it's all around me.
He's looking for a
There's
fresh
more. I'm
perspective.
just looking for more, for perspective, for a, a, a look at a nod toward the future. Um, and that's where I go. And we have a historic review committee who actually looks at mural proposals in our historic district. And I don't want ever to see that we have an art police kind of perspective here or tone of voice. So in a nutshell, I'll kick that off.
Yeah.
And people on this, there may be people on this board who have extremely opposite opinions. That's okay too.
People aren't a monolith. Could you tell me what style? Like the buildings in Troy are very distinct, especially like
Mm.
in that area. I was kind of doing a Google walkthrough. What kind of style would you define that as an architect?
Oh, we call it a Victorian for the most part. I'm not that architect who can tell you which ones are um, 19th century Italianate and which ones are. There's
Yeah.
actually quite a bit of variety when you really look, walk through downtown. Um, but primarily Victorian and everything is Troy's big growth period was 1890 to 2020.
And I'll go next. I'm Gwen Krause. I'm the chair of the board of the Art Center, born and raised in Troy. Family goes way, way back in Troy. And it's my understanding that this is a gateway mural. Correct? This is the one
Mhm.
on River Street,
Mhm.
near the Green Island Bridge.
Yes.
And Troy, the reasons that we had this amazing surge during the Industrial Revolution is because we are the furthest up you can go on the Hudson River, and we connected into the Erie Canal. So the city itself was a gateway. We had one of the busiest train stations in the country because people came up, and then anything that was going, we still are, anything that's going west to Chicago was going to come through Troy. And in that this is, right next to the river, um, it feels like there's this interesting duality of being a gateway as a city to all this movement and goods and services. Because you could only come up to Troy, and then there are falls, there are locks, but then you got on the Erie Canal. So anything that was being shipped out west was going to go through Troy.
Go ahead, Ronnie. You're on mute.
So I'm Liz. I'm the director here at the Art Center, and I'm going to stay pretty quiet during all of this because so many other people have great things to say. And I just want to thank you for your time and thank you for listening and reaching out as part of this process. Um, I think the thing that you're going to hear from anybody on this call is, this incredible sense of passion for this little city. And I think that the passions that you'll hear, whether it's pro contemporary or pro historic or pro people or even pro building, and that'll come back around. Um, the defining line in all of that disparate thinking is this incredible hometown pride. Troy has seen it all, and it came out the other side. It's a city of differences, because there was so much factory and manufacturing here, there is a solid and well maintained working class, if you will, of older families that have lived here for generations that dug in deep. They're in these houses dug in deep. They're really Troy proud. You get a lot of people who moved in because they love all that you just heard about architecture and people and histories. And they've dug in deep because they feel like they have found something different than any place else. And so it's just that I think what united us is our love for Troy. I think that there are a lot of differences here in terms of why people love it, but they love it. And that's when I think about a gateway mural, it's sharing Troy. It's not just a self-adoration, aren't we great? It's enjoy this with us, see it with us, see what we see, be part of what we're building. If it was just self-adoration, frankly, we'd hire a local artist and have it be just one big little local kumbaya, right? We're so excited to see what you will see and how you'll filter that and bring it back to us. So I'm still listening very much, but I'm going to try to be quiet now and give forum to everyone else.
And Ronnie.
So in addition to all the history, we have 7 miles of riverfront. Our city is like a ribbon. And I think that colors, we have a lot of diversity between the north side and the south side and the central part. But we're also a hub of technology. Not only the Industrial Revolution, when RPI, the oldest engineering school in the country, was started, and has fed the local community, but also the international community with engineers, scientists, computer folks. But that's part of our DNA. We also have 2 other colleges here. So we are a hub of academia. We are a hub of religious diversity. Because there are churches and synagogues and more recently mosques all over the place. Part of our problem that these days is what to do with these churches as the demographic changes. So that's, I grew up, I'm third generation Troy, but I left in 1969 and came back in 2018 when it became obvious that this is the place I wanted to be after having lived in New York City for most of that time. So it has a lot of the elements of New York City. It's quirky, it's creative, and it's young. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Suji Picard. I'm the chair of the Public Arts Committee here, and it's really great. Thanks again for everyone showing up. And I'm going to echo a bunch of thoughts already. I really think when I think about Troy, I've lived here for 4 years, but I used to work in Troy 20 years ago, and I worked here for 6 years, and I walked around the city every day at lunch. And so I have a strong feeling of what Troy gives me street level, and that is the energy and excitement of people. And there's a lot of youth energy in this town. There's a lot of art, there's a lot of live music, there's a lot of creative people who are drawn to this city, and they're drawn for different reasons. Obviously, we have beautiful architecture, and that's, a real important feeling. We also, I have to echo Ronnie, this connection to the Hudson River, I think, is very key to this city. It's what's drawn people here for, centuries. And we actually, sometimes I think we don't honor our river as much as we should and connect to our river as much as we should. But it is really the lifeblood of this place. And I echo what Barb said, is that we have a lot of historical pieces, things about buildings, murals about buildings. I also think a contemporary piece. My vision for this is a contemporary piece that honors who we are, but also looks toward the future, because that's the vibrant part of Troy to me. So, thanks.
Thank you, Ronnie, Suji, and Elizabeth. Sorry, I was muted. Danae just joined us as well, so I just want to welcome Danae. Thanks for logging in, Danae. Anyone else have, well, actually, artists, do you have any specific questions within all of those details that you were provided?
Go ahead, Greg.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say that was all fantastic. Really great stuff, just to be able to hear it from those of you in the city. And I kind of distilled some of it here, but I'm wondering if there's any just like simple word associations for any of you that just pop into your head, even just a couple words, like when you just think of the feeling of Troy, just like, and as I said, I kind of jotted down pulling from what you said, but I'm wondering if there's anything else just top of head for any of you that comes to mind on that.
My first word would be ingenuity.
Great.
Historic and contemporary.
Mine would be resilient. Resilience. We've come back many times from near disaster.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, those are good ideas. Resilience and ingenuity sort of go together. But I guess the word I would say is innovation, because, like this has been mentioned already, this is home of the first engineering school. In my immediate neighborhood where my studio is, there's a whole row of buildings. Some are gone, but every single one of them was built around a patent. Somebody, got a patent idea, the first mechanical washing machine, the first type of print die to make, U.S. currency out of, just on and on and on. Everybody was innovating and building. So that kind of goes with resilience, because you can constantly rebuild yourself. And of course, Troy burnt itself down quite graphically a couple
Burn
times
itself
too.
down. Had a fire.
Oh yeah, it was a pretty cool fire.
There.
and it shaped a lot of architecture. Anyway,
I was going to say, in fact, that fire, 1825, started at that point where this mural is. The
Well, yeah, that's
bridge.
actually a really cool idea. You're right.
Yeah, the
The bridge is what started it.
bridge was wood, and they would stop the locomotives and pull them across the bridge with mules so that there would be no sparks lighting the bridge on fire. Well, the year that they decided to retire the mules, the bridge caught on fire, it was like a wick. It was like a candle wick that just took Troy from right there. So it could be that that building survived that fire. We'd have to look up the history there, whether it was built before or after.
It was built in 1910. So
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know when the fire,
After.
you said the fire was earlier than that. Yeah, it was built
It
in,
was 18 something.
yeah,
1875.
1910, and it was a manufacturer's national bank, just so everybody.
Okay.
Um, But I wanted to say, when I go to Troy, I live outside of Troy, and I can tell you that where I live is very touristy and it's great. But when I go to Troy, there's all this positive energy. There's this creative energy with the music and the art and the fact that the architecture and the culture of its past is also recognized. It's just so youthful. Regardless of how what your age is, I feel like even people who are older in age have this energy and this youthfulness that they give back to Troy.
I'll give you another little story. If you're not familiar with the Erie Canal, the fact that we were the first stop on the Erie Canal from between here and Buffalo, the song says Albany, Buffalo, but it was really Troy. Um, the boats filled with goods would jockey for position to be the first one in line when the canal opened up. So the canal was this main street, 30, 50-foot wide main street that went through every town in Western New York. So the boats with their dry goods or their, whatever they were transporting, they wanted the first one in, it's the first one gets to sell their goods. So to jockey, so they'd spend a couple of weeks jockeying for position before the canal opened. And to move up in line, they would have boxing matches so that the crew on the canal boat would would box, the boat ahead of them. And whoever won, would move up in line. So it's kind of a real, it's a real hub, right in that area. Just imagine the activity, between large ships that weren't going to go any further and these small canal boats that were jockeying for position. And so also when you got to the end of the line, when you were on that crew from Buffalo to Troy, well, you got paid in Troy. You didn't get paid until it's time to get off the boat, right? Otherwise, you'd leave the boat. So the crews would find themselves in Troy with a pocket full of cash, and they would spend it, and so it became quite the party town. It was quite the party hub.
I'm not suggesting that this be put in the mural at all, but we were very, very famous for our houses of ill repute.
Yes.
There was a house of prostitution right next to the police station. And there's a legend that the girls would send baked goods over on a clothesline to the police next door. My great grandfather had a barbershop in between two houses of ill repute. We had a very famous madam. Her name was Mame Fay.
Mm-hmm.
I am not saying put that in the mural.
Yes, that's not my suggestion either, but just let that give you a sense of activity, of action that was.
So historically, just to kind of put this into, so in the 19th century, Troy had enormous industry. It had enormous invention, enormous industry. It had one of the nation's most important schools, churning out incredible science, and just all of this is going on. And then, like a lot of northeastern cities, as factories could get larger in the south or even overseas, Troy saw an enormous drop in population and in employability. And so it lost something like 35% of its population. I mean, all of this is on Wikipedia where you can see that. But at one point, a lot of downtown was almost basically shuttered. When the Art Center bought these buildings in the 90s, it had dozens and dozens of properties to choose from to relocate this art center. So that it pulled itself back. So it had this amazing peak, and then it had this amazing valley, and then it reinvented itself and it came back. It's still not as big as it used to be from a population base and probably from a tax base, but it did pull itself back. And that is that redemption that you're hearing us talk about, that the highs and lows of it all. You feel it when you're here that uh, it will continue.
I want to ask if you all can talk a little bit about the people who live in Troy, more about who they are, what their what they think is important, how they would, how you, most of you who live there, would describe yourselves in that cycle of change from, this, what Liz was talking about, this space that really has um, grown from very challenging times to what we have now, even though it's not perfect, you're still growing. But I'm just wondering if you could talk about that personal connection and personality that comes with those who've seen that change.
I'm just going to start with a general statement and then these guys can actually talk about the people they know. I think what you would see from Troy is what you're seeing across the nation, which is there's this incredible kind of divide in Troy. There is an older, well-established conservative base, conservative in their thinking, conservative about the life they want to see. And then next to it is a newer, more progressive community that is also very concerned about what it is seeing. So if you look and you want to Google news in Troy, you're going to see one council person reject a pride flag because he doesn't believe in it, while you see another council person try to wave it even higher. You're going to see one mayor work towards one agenda and another mayor work for a completely opposite one. We're very similar to what we're seeing in the country, which is that we're the division between our points of view is getting wider, not closer. And that's a little bit of the challenge of the mural, is that the political leadership we have today wants something safer than maybe the progressive community would want to see something riskier.
Yep.
And it's that duality that we have to respect both sides of, because both of those communities live and work and love Troy.
Mm-hmm. And
So
I think
now that I said that, you guys go on.
well, I think that Liz said something important, which is that when the art center moved downtown, we did have it was there were so many buildings that were abandoned. And like Ronnie, I was born and raised here, but I lived down in Brooklyn for almost 30 years and I came back and I lived in Park Slope. And I saw what was happening in Troy was exactly what was happening in Park Slope. These abandoned, gorgeous, amazing buildings, sort of a dead zone. And who moves in but artists because they can afford it, right? And so this creative community starts up, creates a buzz. All of a sudden, people say, these buildings are amazing, the city is amazing. And I do really believe that the Art Center moving to downtown started that renaissance, and that, very much like what happened in Park Slope, the creative community brought it back, right? And then other forces took over. The creative community is now being pushed a little bit out of downtown, but there's still lots of places in Troy that are incredibly affordable. So as Liz said, we have this like creative spark and these young people and great music and really, off the wall events going on. And there is a um, there is an older community that is maybe more conservative. We are now currently in a Republican administration, um, and we had 8 years of I'm going to say it, I thought he was a great mayor, a Democrat, good friend, who really wanted, that administration was really, really supportive of public art in any form. And we have to be a little careful with this one.
I think you'll find that that is a conversation that a lot of us are having almost constantly right now.
Mm.
We're being asked to like walk this line that's very, very, very complicated.
And to be honest with you, I think I grew up in politics, and I think every elected official works really hard. I mean, to be honest with you, outside of just really radical thinking, most politicians are putting their best foot forward. We're just in a different time, and where this mural is absolutely almost like in a boundary area between what is perceived of as progressive downtown and then into other neighborhoods. But I can't stress enough that everyone lives here and everyone deserves a chance to be thoughtful and thought of in positive light. And it while we see these divisions, um, we all are here. We're all residents. We're all part of this community.
I'm sorry, I have to jump off.
Thank you
It's
so
a
much,
great
Gwen.
discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't settle on my one word.
Then say two or three. Then say two or
It just,
three.
well,
Say
it
as many as
just,
you want.
it sounds strange, but networked. So in urban planning study, this city at like 49,000 people or so
No, it's
is
over 50. I made sure of that
just
with
over
the
50.
second
Okay.
word. Over
Well,
50.
we hover there, but it is just that's the limit of a city where you can feel like you know what's going on, like you can I don't know 50,000 people, but in my network, it is enough intertwined with the next network and the next network. Um, you can you can know your leadership. You can I don't know. It's very accessible. So maybe accessible is what I mean, not just in the physical sense, not at all in the physical sense, but in
think
people
it's
sense.
I think it's wildly interconnected, though. I mean, honestly, everybody was each other's neighbor or cousin or ex
Right.
or work together at some point. I mean, my God, you can't, the game of telephone in this town is wild.
Right. So I notice on your websites that both of you, Greg and Nico, are very people. There's a face or a person or persons almost always involved and depicted, and it would be so easy to be able to tell you, oh, we have this one public hero, and we don't have that's just not possible, unless. Okay, everybody would tell you Uncle Sam is our public hero because Uncle Sam lived here and made bricks here and packed meat here. I'm so tired of Uncle Sam. So we don't want I don't want to see Uncle Sam on a mural, but because it's just so been done. Um, so we can't just easily pick out that Pocahontas person that is our that we all gel around. It's just we can't do that.
May I offer something? I'm brand new to this group, and I've been in listening mode, but I've just heard two things I'd like to echo back, and that is one, in light of the fact that politics right now are challenging, and you're never going to um, make everybody happy all the time. So there is some middle line to play with, but rather than turn people away, how do you interpret bringing people to you? So we don't want people to be turned off by what we think represents the city of Troy, but to get them to walk towards us and be more interested. And I've already forgotten what the other thing was. So, but I think that, oh yes, Barb, I believe that the main figures here in Troy are the people, as opposed to a person or a historical figure. Today, it is all about the people. Thank you.
To be specific, the mayor's office doesn't want a little rainbow coalition of people. So good luck with that. Okay. Have fun with that.
I just want to note that it's really important to not just talk about the architecture, but the environment itself, the river, and we have this thing with crows in Troy, and there's some other things to sort of like look into. So just,
What's
keep
the
that in
crow
mind as
thing?
well.
What's the crow
So,
thing?
well, it's so okay. So in the capital region, first of all, you've got dozens of little towns and micro towns. So you've got 8 million different little municipalities and ways of doing things. So typical of a lot of environments, we will get migratory, or we actually they don't migrate anymore. We get big flocks of crows. We just get big, giant armies of crows. And last summer or 2 summers ago, I don't remember when, Watervliet, which is across the river from us, and Troy decided to like try to move these crows to each other's community with like sound cannons and sonic waves and all this stuff, and to like push them across the river. And then Watervliet would be like, oh crap, they got to go across the river because they were pooping everywhere, right? Like they're actually a nuisance. If
they're
your
ugly.
car
Yeah.
is under the crow tree, you are screwed. But it was hysterical that like the answer, nobody wants to kill the crows, right? Like that's just so déclassé. So they just kept like trying to move them back and forth. And it was really something. I don't know if they ever got completely removed. It wasn't so bad this last summer.
No, but it's become sort
we
of a
have a
cult
local
following.
theater
Yeah.
company here who actually did some plays about the crows. They are very infamous. There's people who love the crows and people who hate the crows, and it depends on what your car looks like in the morning when you come home.
I mean, these cars would
Is
end
this
up
like
like
the pigeons in
stalactites.
New York, where like some
Right.
people are terrified of them and some people are like, yeah, New
We
York
love them.
pigeons.
Yep.
So I'm glad you brought up the crows. They are really an important part of the city, I think.
Well, there's a farmers market, which is one of, I think, really one of the nation's top 10. It's one of the state's top farmers market. That's something that defines Troy. There's a huge gaming industry here. Warner Brothers has offices here. All sorts of different gaming components, including a lot of support ones, where like they're the ones that make the widget for you to spend more money in your game. So there's a gaming community here. There's a number of colleges. Sage College is one of Sage University now is one of our nation's most revered older women's college that now has reinvented itself and does really well. There's a lot of different histories. A lot of that is available to read, but other kooky stories. There was an old meme here in Joy Troy that got trademarked. That became kind of a fun promotional phrase for a while. Troy Bot, which Barb, you could talk more about than I can, but
So we have 7 bridges across the Hudson River here in Troy, and that's more than Manhattan, which is interesting. We don't have tunnels, but some were old drawbridges and they've been replaced, and one is actually at this site, the Green Island Bridge. It's an icon. It's become an iconic. It's kind of ugly, really. It's just kind of wrapped in
I love that bridge.
aluminum. I don't know. It's an elevated bridge. It's a drawbridge, and so a local artist has developed it into a transformer, a cartoon, and the bridge comes alive. And yes, I painted a mural of Troy Bot under the bridge.
I think I sent you guys the images of that. That was in the list
Yeah.
of mural images that I shared with you.
And it is
Yeah,
this
that sounds
benevolent
familiar.
creature.
he's
She,
benevolent.
Troybot comes to life and saves people from drowning in the river, and a storm uproots trees. So it's a whole cartoon story character,
yeah.
and he helps put Troy back together and save the people. And
Does he
And-
fight the crows?
no, but I just
he loves
Googled Troy,
crows.
New York
Crows love him.
crows, and
He's a
there's some
lover, not a
amazing
fighter.
images. Amazing.
So then also remember, team, that you can't swim in this river, that the Hudson and its mighty, mighty, beautiful historic Hudson has been polluted here to the degree that it's not safe to swim in. You really shouldn't eat the fish that lots of people still like to sport fish here, but you shouldn't be eating it. So there's this weird relationship that at one point it's this beautiful backdrop to our city, We turned our back on it for generations insofar as its health and well-being. We needed it, but we didn't care for it. And now it's this great aspect of our community that is inaccessible in some weird way too.
Right.
Um,
It also floods and causes some good havoc when that happens. So it has two sides to it, like any great nature element.
Call it the mighty Hudson.
Mighty.
I love the Hudson. I mean, it's just such a, I'm looking at it right now. It's
Right.
one of America's great rivers. Anyway,
There's also
so
a little meme saying that Troy is where Henry Hudson turned around. So Henry Hudson, explored the Hudson River, but he got here and he turned around. That's
because he had
sort
seen
of
it all. He'd seen the best part. He
self-deprecating
was like,
humor.
"That's it. I'm fully
Yeah.
satisfied. This is the most beautiful aspect. I can go home now."
Right.
Now, any details about, I know there's downtown and this is a gateway. Are there any details of Troy itself outside of downtown that you would all want to comment on?
Shall I tell them about the Lansingburg Riviera?
You bet.
Whatever you want to tell them.
Well, one of the
part of this ribbon of Troy that is across from a state park and across from the second lock on the Erie Canal, the town of Waterford, which high rises anytime soon. That is just the most peaceful, historical, meaningful place. Do you agree? No. I dubbed it the Lansingburg Riviera.
I think a lot of the communities outside of downtown, so right along the riverside is the industrial ribbon that we keep speaking of. That's where larger factories would be. And you can still see that today if you look at Google Maps, is that all along the waterfront. And when we say larger factories, we're still talking about 6 to 7 story buildings. We're not in the nothing's much higher than that, loft style buildings. But then seeping east of that, because you're not going to go across the river, right? So everything will be east of that, are residential neighborhoods. And so some will be small little lots, 50 feet by 100 feet lots or even smaller. And then some will be, traditional kind of housing. And so people live here, for all of this talk about innovation and all of that, people live here. And north where Ronnie is speaking about in Lansingburg, it's flatter. Then you go up the hill in the hill area. But people take a lot of pride in their houses for the most part. I mean, there are areas that people are challenged with that. There's factory housing in the south around the Burton Iron Works area. There's a lot of smaller houses, factory housing. But I think really just going through the map, you'll see those kind of different communities. The public schools here are great. People love Troy High. People love, kids get great education here, great colleges. Yeah.
Would you all consider, and nobody wants this, this on a mural, but would you all consider that the cemeteries in Troy have any kind of historical significance or anything that you want to discuss about them? I don't know. I just hear about them. No one wants, obviously, a cemetery on a mural or anything like that. But is there anything specific in those areas or any history that you want to talk about as well?
I mean, Oakwood Cemetery has.
I'll type up on that.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, the Victorian era was famous for the rural cemetery movement. Boston has a great example. New York City, and Albany actually has a really pretty good example. But Troy's is, it's punching way above its weight in terms of population density, and it really is exotic. But you're right; it's not going to play well on a mural. Although, back to innovation, the Stanfords, who were local, had built a chapel for their fallen. You know, he died. I think it was during the flu epidemic. But then they moved to California and set up some small university. I mean, no one like puts that, ties that connection to Troy.
I didn't know that.
The cemetery is really cool. It has some extraordinary architecture and some extraordinary Tiffany glass. If you want to see the best Tiffany glass I've ever seen, you would go. Actually, it was done by his protege, but it's the huge windows in the crematorium of the main pavilion there at the
Oakwood.
at the museum.
Oakwood.
But I want to jump back one question ago. We said details, about Troy. We haven't mentioned. I'd be remiss if I didn't represent, the one of the many organizations that represent Troy's history, the Gateway, because South Troy. This goes back under the heading of innovation and industry. Henry Burden, who, by the way, is buried at the Albany Rural Cemetery and he's facing his ironworks. He invented, so many people invented stuff, a automatic horseshoe machine. And of course, he produced most of the horseshoes that went to the Civil War. Right there in South Troy. And that's kind of iconic for some people in Troy.
So stained glass, I think, is another theme in the architecture, something to think about as well, some patterns and things, the Tiffany glass, if you didn't catch that initially.
There's a lot of it, actually. It's a good point, Belinda. There's a lot of churches with beautiful Tiffany glass in them and stained glass, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say a couple things. I don't know if you're looking at the chat, but Danae has mentioned a few things about the community that you might want to take a look at, talking about, Oakwood is filled with Troy innovators. There was a stretch of mansions along the river in North Troy. So those are, and that there's strong, hardworking families and communities underlying the fabric of Troy.
Yeah, it's worth noting that I just used the statistic. I think it's 40% of our citizens, their annual income qualify them as low income. So we are a hardworking city. We may have some, beautiful architecture and beautiful mansions, and they're kind of.
We're a working class city.
We're not the rich and famous. Yeah.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting and saying things, but we haven't mentioned the textile industry and the fact that Hewitt and Peabody Shirt Company was a huge mill employing thousands of mostly women in the 1800s. They had their own factory, which was in an area that is now a state park, right on the river, because they had water power for their machinery. But Arrow shirts, if you've ever heard of them, were made here.
Mm-hmm.
Sanforizing, which is the process by which you don't shrink, fabric doesn't shrink, was invented here. So it was huge, and there was and it aligned with that with the union movement, started by some women. There are very important women in this community too. Emma Willard, Olivia Slocum Sage. What's the woman's name who started the union from the shirt factory? I don't remember the name.
O'Malley. I thought it was O'Malley, but
Kate Mullaney.
Kate Mullaney.
Sorry,
Kate Mullaney.
So women have a history. In addition to Maine Fay, there are other women who have important history.
I think it's key too that all of this industry, whether you were running a textile mill or making horseshoes, it all was based on water power. I mean, that's the reason it was born here, or grew here, is because we have all these little creeks that run into the Hudson, probably 4 tributaries, and that's where we have waterfalls and um, places to harness that power. So I think you're hearing a lot about the river, its beauty, its peace,
Yeah.
its dangers, its power. It's
A fun little fact, the Ferris wheel was
oh yeah.
invented by someone who went to RPI. And there are a lot of things that came out of RPI, but I think that's a little fun tidbit of information.
Yeah, and bringing up RPI, I need to mention the MPAC Performing Arts Center that we have in Troy is one of the most outstanding, innovative uh, venues for creative, like contemporary, out of the box art. And they have like some amazing theaters, the black box theaters, soundproof theaters. And it's really, that's part of the continuing innovation of a college like RPI. When I travel back to Albany, we always fly into Albany International Airport. I oftentimes meet people who are coming to Troy because their kids are looking to enroll in RPI, and they're very interested in this area. This area has it has a history of technological innovation, and it continues now. We have some sort of fancy computer up there as well, but I don't really know enough about it to speak about it. But people tell me it's one of the most the newest computers.
Quantum computer.
Thank you, a quantum computer
in the world, the largest in the world.
It's the only quantum computer that's accessible by the public on the planet.
And when you say accessible, it means they're giving tours.
I don't know how you
have any of us ever tried to
computer. Yeah.
No, I think the idea is that if you genuinely need to access it via your research and you're that high level, that RPI can integrate your research.
You could get in there. But I guess that's another word: creativity, innovation. I'm going back to that couple of words. Those are
also, we're really in the middle of three very important cities. So we're pretty much smack in the middle of 3 hours from New York City, 3 hours from Boston, 3 hours from Montreal. And it's just sort of like a nice way of thinking about the regional spread of where we are and how accessible we can be to others.
In fact, I think that we would view ourselves closer to New York than to Cortland. It's funny when you mentioned that, Nico, like, oh, Cortland is near. I don't think Troy people would, just in terms of how we refer to upstate, it's kind of funny. The Hudson River Valley is very different from central New York. And we chose you as finalists because we love your merit. It's not necessarily where you lived or any of that. Don't worry about that. But the Hudson River Valley has its own ethos that's different from, say, central New York or western New York.
Oh yeah, I know. I have to say upstate when I'm outside anywhere other than New York. I know New York has its different things, but when you're not living in New York and talking to someone, when you say you lived in New York State, they're like, "Oh, the city."
You bet.
No. I'm in Central New York. Where's that? I'm like upstate. Just
never mind. That big triangle, that big massive green thing.
Do we have any other specific questions from the two of you that we haven't gone over?
Well, one thing we haven't touched on at all is diversity within the city. This is obviously kind of this is very white group. So we're missing some perspectives of the city. So I don't know if anyone's qualified to talk about that or there's someone else I should talk to about that. But that's a question I do have.
We did invite some others from the community to diversify this conversation. Unfortunately, they haven't logged in, so I maybe they weren't available. But if there is someone directly, I can put you in touch with, to do that. But if anybody feels like they have the know-how to talk about that, please go ahead.
Well, we do a lot of work. We're a nonprofit community design center, and we do a lot of work for low and moderate income individuals, which is where we find a lot of our a good portion of our clientele in that economic strata are, in fact, of color, Black, Muslim, Chinese. So just as, artists find Troy affordable. So do people who are strapped, people who are strapped for cash. Um, that's not to say we don't also have. I think it's probably pretty average, that not all of our people of color are low income. There's plenty in the business community and plenty in the academic community. Um, not enough, but certainly represented. So I think we're a pretty average mix. But sorry, I don't have the statistic.
No, I
But
mean, the statistics are available online, but just to be
yeah,
clear, like as this project goes on, when a finalist is chosen, we'll do this kind of interface in uh, a more complex way with a little bit more warning that we can really make sure that we can get a really great group of people together. We're really glad to have done this, but in a couple of days, in midday, this is who we
Yeah.
could get to the
yeah,
table.
yeah.
But the Art Center runs a
Oh,
satellite space in North Central Troy that it's really dedicated to artists of color using it as a home base, and they've got wonderful perspectives that will make sure get added to any kind of final iteration of a mural that we may do. So
Yeah.
we have them. They're here.
Yeah, I just have to like come up with the design for you to like even choose me. So it's kind of hard to
yeah.
do that without all the perspectives, you know what I mean?
I
So I
hear
was
you.
just
And I'm,
looking
I'm
for a
sure Belinda
little,
will help work that out, but I am trying to, just
yeah,
say to that end.
cool.
Uh, like every other demographic here in Troy, there are those that have lived here multi generations. Whether you're any particular color, there's a multi generational group, and then there's a more transient group, and that crosses all demographic lines here in the area. And so, what we'll try to do is hit both that kind of multi generational family, but then also those that have only lived here for say 5 years. So when I use transient, I'm not speaking about homeless. I'm speaking about people who are living here now but
Yeah.
are from other places. Troy
Okay.
is the county seat, so we have a higher density of public housing than any other part of Rensselaer County. So in that way, there's also a right around where that mural is public housing. So yeah, we'll make sure that that's the next component in this. And Belinda, you and I can talk about who we may be able to access a little bit more quickly and efficiently at this element of this development.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I do know that this whole area has connections to the Underground Railroad. And then I think Danae just texted in the chat of a historical Troy person, Charles Nally, who was actually a slave, but I guess a free man in this area. So that there's a lot of history that we haven't discussed. I'm not conversant in the history, but we have a really deep history of the Underground Railroad in this area. And we have like different societies that are working on that now. And we also have a Native American history in this area, which is not surprising. But there's several different tribes that lived here. So we do have more information that we should be giving you. And it's good that you brought this up, Nico.
Also, I sent you a link to the project we did called The Uniting Line, and there were a lot of stories and interviews with local people. There should be quite a bit of information there about other organizations and groups and cultural significant information for everyone that's in this region. Coming from boxing to really, that's really important now, and basketball and some other things that are things that like people um, identify with in this region. So really take a look at that in the meantime, and we'll see
Yeah.
how we
Is
can
that
get
is
there for
that
you.
one the long video one?
That's the long video
Is
one.
that subtitled?
I don't know, Barbara, do you know if that's subtitled?
I want to
Okay,
say
so
it is, but I
that's
don't know.
Maybe we can, because Nico needs to have some
Huh.
additional help with
If there's like a
understanding.
write-up about it, that would be better than a video
But
because
it's great
subtitle
to hear their
The
own
video,
voices.
YouTube
yeah.
will subtitle things, but hard.
It's not that easy to do a write-up because the thing is that the whole program was a program. WMHT put about 6 months into producing.
Is there a website that you guys did with it or something?
You'll find it on the MHT website, I think. You'll find that video.
Sweet.
WMH.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
the videos are kind of inaccessible for a lot
That's
of
too
deaf
bad.
people.
That's
And
too
I
bad.
didn't say that, and I'm sorry. I should have said that when I was introducing myself. I'm deaf, hard of hearing if you're in the deaf community. So I have a hard time with YouTube.
Okay.
I'll research and see if we can find some articles that were written
That's
and
great.
share that with you.
I can Google that.
Okay.
Even just watching the video, not hearing the voices, you would see the who the voices are, who the people are that are talking about their neighborhood. And what you'll read is that this story tells the story of how a major bridge construction uh, just devastated a community of color, their little main street and their economic basis, and then to see them speaking, about the project in a favorable manner was really great. So there's something to be gained, at least from seeing, moving, kind of fast forwarding through it. But I hope you can find some information.
All right. Well, I mean, we've had a little over an hour now. We'll take one more question if there's any, and then we're gonna move along and let you all create some work for us. No other questions?
I feel good about all the information that's been discussed so far. A lot to work with. It's great. The more information up front, the better. So yeah, I don't have anything for me right now. So
Wonderful.
Great.
Nico, you're all set?
I think so, and I appreciate in the chat somebody mentioned that you're on Mohican land. That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all of your time. I really appreciate it. I am very excited about this project. I'm very excited to see how all of the artists are going to take this information that we've spoken about today and really represent it with their own styles. This is recorded. It will be sent to all 5 artists so that they can go back and refer to it.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
Artists, can you stay on for a second? I just have a quick thing to tell you.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We have one more person leaving. Okay. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I tried to get as many people as possible onto this call as soon as possible. Unfortunately, it was sort of last minute that I was able to get some of these people to reach out to others, and so that was a challenge.
Yeah.
That's why I sent you the Uniting Line information because it really does have a lot of details. It interviews people who live in the neighborhoods, which I thought was really important. And so I just wanted to reiterate that. And when we move forward, we will get more information. I know that it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what you're going to design, but these are sketches. So from these sketches, we can say, can you add a little bit of this or can you add a little bit of that? And we can go ahead and we can have that further discussion about any kind of specific cultural details or, influential information, day-to-day information about those who live in Troy. And adjust our work scope moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand these things are often a journey. It's just really hard to sometimes come up with things when we're missing some of the the story,
Oh,
the
I
full
get
story.
it. 100%.
Especially, and it's not really just like things that need to be included, but sometimes it's about what a community might find offensive.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that whole story about Bo Stanton and the sunburst thing in LA, and I don't want to be that person.
Right. Well, I think that's
Um,
what Liz was trying to get at is that there are, both communities of thought, or multiple communities of thought. And so that's the challenge of being an artist, like we discussed, is trying to figure out how to be central in that conversation, but also make sure that everyone relates to it, or enjoys it, I guess. But again, we're not going to make every single person happy. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to be creative. Artists speak to conversation. You are the conversation, so we want to make sure that you're able to have that conversation too. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
I'm very interested, especially where you are about the indigenous perspective and also the
mhm.
Black perspective. New York, I know that New York, especially if you're on that Erie Canal, you must have a giant amount of information about like what was happening between the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, New York was abuzz at that time, so
I have to tell you that we did go to the Historic Society and try to get more information from them, and we didn't really get quite as much. Um, there is an institution, if you want to do a little more research in Albany, called, I believe it's called the Underground Railroad Museum or something of that nature, and I'll text that to you so you can get some more information about some of the historic significance of the river and the railroad
yeah.
and everything that.
And again, I mean, this is just for my own like understanding of an area. I mean, a gateway meal is so tough
Yeah, I understand,
because
and
you're trying to like you're a crux of where it is
yeah.
a connection of two communities. I can see where you have to be very culturally sensitive. So
Yeah. And I think that's any of the industrial cities going up the Hudson River. You can look at Beacon, Newburgh, Kingston, Hudson. You can see they're all really the same stories, just in different locations. You find a lot of it repeating. I'm from Newburgh, so I know, and I lived in downtown Newburgh, and my family had its own issues, which is my own personal situation. But it does matter that you have identity coming from the central locations in the cities that you're in and really have that conversation with everyone who's surrounding that,
yeah.
area. Um, okay, so outside of that, I wanted to let you know that Greg, I got your signed agreement and W-9, which I needed, which is great. Nico, I haven't received yours yet, so please get that to me when you get a chance. I don't think I received it.
I sent it, but I'll resend it.
Okay, well, I'll double check, make sure it didn't go into spam.
It's okay.
Um,
I've got it saved on my computer. It's an easy send.
okay, no problem. I appreciate that. Just I want to make sure I am very a stickler on making sure artists get paid. It's something that I hold very dearly to myself because I can't stand when that something like that happens or there's a really long delay or I want to make sure there's
Yeah,
no excuses to get the funds out to you.
I
Um,
shouldn't.
So the other thing I wanted to let you know is the architecture. We talked about can you paint the trim? We're going to stay away from painting the trim around, like the
The like
areas that go
scallop
around.
ants or
Yeah,
whatever you call it.
we're gonna leave that the way it is. Um, and then the other update, and this is totally my fault. The measurements for the building I've put on everywhere is 33 feet. It's actually 35 feet. So it's 35 feet by 44, not 33 by 44.
35 by 44.
Yeah, I
It's
think I
okay.
just wrote it in one thing, copied and pasted, and unfortunately it just spread. But I went back and double checked all the measurements, and it's 35 by 44. So 35 in height, 44 in width. Um, and I think that is all the information that I have, unless you have any other questions. I tried to find more information about the history of the building. I don't think there's a lot there. Um, all they told me was that it was built in 1910 and it was the manufacturer's national bank. That's all I could get out of them. Um, but I thought some things that were really interesting in that conversation were obviously everybody wants to talk about industry, everybody wants to talk about history. I'm glad that people said they're tired of seeing, Uncle Sam and some of those same old identifiers as Troy, as much as they're super important. Like I wrote in the email, we're not looking to do that any longer because it's just repetitive. I think thinking about the river obviously seems really important to them. Um, I think architecture is important and, I don't think that should be discarded, but I definitely think that it wasn't about drawing buildings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
always got kind of weirded out with murals that are about buildings on buildings, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd, but we have had that. So yeah. I
Sometimes
do
it
think
makes sense.
something to take into consideration, just color and pattern wise, might be the Tiffany stained glass because it's something that gives you some color that is specific to Troy. It's very well known for it. So you should be able to find some details in that. And I brought up the cemetery and the crows just because I know as somebody who worked there, I loved seeing the crows go across the sky, but then I know there were tons of people who did not like the crows at all. But I wanted to get that sort of feedback from people as well as
Uh-huh.
with, the
I
cemetery.
love that story. Is the crow like the bird that would represent Troy the most, you think?
No, I don't think people would be happy with that. I don't know. I mean, putting like a little like hint to them, I don't think is a bad idea. I think that'd be fun. I think the bluebird is our New York State bird.
Yep.
There's other things like the blue Carner butterfly that people are trying to protect, and there's a couple different fish in the river. But I think some of that has been done already. But look into that. Look into some of that. That's why I was talking about the natural environment and some things that are right outside of like just downtown Troy. Um,
Is it very green downtown? Is it like a green space town? Or has
um,
that not been put back in?
yeah, there's not much when it comes to parks or placemaking in that sense. Not really. I think they're working on it. They do have a few parks, but they're further. I think there's one in South Troy, none in downtown Troy. Oh well, actually, there's private gated gardens,
Yeah.
but it's key locked. You have to have a key in order to get into it. It's old Victorian kind of
Yeah.
area. And then there's a couple parks up north, but they're used, there's a baseball field and some basketball courts. Um, but I wouldn't say like a lot of playgrounds or anything like that. There's a park, River Street Park, that's right behind the Art Center and on the river near this location. There's a river walk, but and that's used quite a bit. They have musical events, they have yoga, they have all kinds of things going on down there. But that would be the closest to where the mural is. But in the rest of the city, I'm not the best person to answer that, but I would,
It's really common for those older cities to not have it. It's
right, right.
hugely
There's
common.
not a lot downtown. Um, but I hope that you were able to get some information that you
Yeah.
needed for this, and if you have any other questions from now till the 20th, I haven't always been on my computer because I'm part-time and contracted, but I will be on my computer constantly for the next few days to
Okay.
make sure that any questions that you have are answered.
Um, as far as like the completion level of the design, I mean, obviously I'm working from photorealism, so it's not going to be possible to photograph and get all those references collected for a final image.
Right.
I usually do like a pencil drawing with like a watercolor treatment, and like I do like a presentation thing with all like the elements described. Is that fine?
That's perfectly fine. Definitely, as long as I have some imagery to share with, I have to share with the building owner, I have to share with the city of Troy, and then other stakeholders who want to see the initial sketches, just to see how, obviously, just they want to see them. Obviously, the building owner just
Yeah.
specifically wants to see it, and the city wants to make sure that it has this gateway presence, of course. Um, but they're not the final decision makers. But I want to make sure that they have something that is um, not a video or anything like that, but something that's just an image itself that I can share. So as much detail as you can put into an image with some text, that would be really great. So I can share that with them. But for me, the more the merrier because I need to make sure that I'm learn everything about what you're putting into these sketches so I can give you a really I give you all my attention and I get all the information that I need because this is going to be hard for me. This is going to be really hard. So yeah,
It's okay. We're on a journey.
yeah,
These kind of murals can be very difficult.
yeah,
Just
and I have my
mitigating the different communities is very hard.
Yeah, that and what I think of a gateway community mural versus everything that's been shown over the country, I feel like I'm a little um I'm looking for something a little more interesting than just the buildings and the colors and, the welcome to kind of stuff. I'm really looking for stylized gateway, really like visibility and like someone said, like really bringing people in, not just talking about what's here, but bringing people to it and bringing people to the region. I think that's important for me, but everybody has their ideology, and I need to take that into consideration when making my decision as well. Um, so yeah, just let me know if you have any other questions. The more information, the merrier. I'm really just looking for still images, but if there's any more information you want to give me, I'll set up a meeting for us to go over any additional details. I'll reach out to you and say, let's have this meeting to discuss this or et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll go from there. The schedule is, I have a pretty tight timeline, but I have, like I said, I think I said this in an email. I have time, I have wiggle room, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to make sure that if there was any other information I needed, I could get that from you. And again, I chose 5 artists. I was supposed to choose 3, so I kind of did that to myself. Um, but yeah.
We'll
Um,
get there.
yeah. Oh no, 100%. I'm really looking forward to it. I kind of like threw myself under the bus with that. All right. So
Ambition does that to you sometimes. You're like, yeah, totally. And then you're like,
uh,
oh no.
yeah, there were so many amazing artists, so many people with so much experience. And sometimes it was just the fact that people didn't share enough of their experience. Like, and it was just like, I want to see more. And I would, whatever. It is what it is. If you all have ever been in that process of, going through RFQs or RFPs, it's always hard because, no one really wants to submit all their stuff and talk about themselves all the time. So, but
It's
okay.
hard to get everything into an application.
Exactly, exactly. So, it's okay. That's what these conversations are for.
Yeah.
But okay, let me know if you need anything else. I'm gonna send out this link. Sorry. I'm gonna try to get my husband, he's a designer. I'm gonna try to get him to make this file a little smaller so I don't take over your email or your computers by downloading this file. But
You can probably do it with WeTransfer.
I did, that's how I sent the last one,
Yeah.
and it compressed it. It didn't do much compression with it, so
Oh, gross.
it's fine. That's okay. He can do it, or
All
I can
right.
get somebody else to do it for me. But you guys and you both enjoy your day, and
Thank you.
yeah, I'm looking forward to what you come up with.
All right,
Cool.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time and all the effort you put into getting everybody together today.
Oh,
It's awesome.
100%. It's my pleasure. Anything I can do to help.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
so much.
much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay, see you guys.